Many professing Christians read the Old Testament text and can't see Christ. Can't find him. Don't see him. Many preachers, strangely, see Christians all over the Old Testament, and they aren't there. You will hear many preachers who will take an Old Testament text and from an Old Testament narrative text teach on Christian living. There are spiritual principles in the Old Testament, in didactic passages, in the Psalms and Proverbs and the wisdom literature and the instruction of God and revelation through the prophets and through Moses and the other writers, of course. But there are no Christians in the Old Testament. And to take an Old Testament passage and spiritualize it and use it as a pretext to extract out or really push in principles of Christian living misses the point. I'm only making a contrast. There are many preachers who see Christians in the Old Testament when they're not there, and sadly don't see Christ when he is there. So we're not going to look at the Old Testament looking for Christians and how they ought to live. We're going to rather establish the principle. This is a very important principle, the principle of authorial intent. No writer in the Old Testament was intending by his writing to give principles for us today directly correspondent to Christian living. Spiritual principles, yes, principles of worship and obedience and holiness and all of that. But to take narrative passages and eliminate the authorial intent, the intent of the author, and use them as a pretext for weak words on Christian living is not legitimate. And we're going to look at the Old Testament, see what the author meant precisely and exactly to the people to whom he wrote, and we're going to see Christ.